Hi, so Charlie, giving you a very brief Monday update. Just want to have a look at the S&P here, really, and a couple of others. Just to sort of, we've had a nice move down on Friday intraday and on likes of the Dow as well. And I was short, and that was the other trade that I was in on. And I was fortunate once where I was up over 100 points to take some profit off the Dow, because then they did come back up, as we can see, during the day. And but what I'm looking at is the potential for the S&P to go to new highs and make new highs here. Now, I've got to do some more analysis, and I'm probably going to do some full analysis for the MBT crowd once we get into the beginning of September, so I'll do that for them. But certainly at the moment, I'm just looking at a couple of factors. Now, I think there's some big moves coming in these indices, but I think that we might just be able to creep up to new highs here on the S&P. And so let's have a look at, for example, the Nasdaq, because the Nasdaq often leads the markets on the upside. So if we have a look at that, then we can see the Nasdaq is very nearly at new highs again already after this pullback that we had across these indices into the early part of August. So that looks like the Nasdaq's probably going to go higher. And actually, if we have a look the monthly chart of the Nasdaq, remember maybe a year ago in these updates I talked about the Nasdaq coming up to retest its old all-time highs. Well, it's getting pretty close to them now. It's into that zone, at least anyway, where double tops can happen if it's going to do that. So I think the Nasdaq's pushing for that level, and for that reason I think that we're probably going to see the Nasdaq carry on going a bit higher here, which will probably should mean that the S&P will continue going a bit higher, and therefore the Dow pushing back up. Here's the dilemma. What I think we're going to see is Nasdaq at new highs, S&P at potentially new highs, and the Dow maybe struggling to catch up. So we're going to have to see over the coming weeks, and I don't think this is something that's going to pan out in the next couple of days. This is something that we're going to be watching over the next few weeks. We're going to see how these markets react here, and to the Nasdaq breaking to new highs. One scenario I'm looking at is that the Dow can't quite do it, and then it's a case of saying, okay, it gets up to here, maybe it consolidates for a bit. What happens next? Does it break out to new highs, or does it roll over? And that's what I'm going to be discussing in the MBT, because I think that either way that it goes, there would be a very high risk reward trade on that. So that's what I'll be doing at the beginning of September, I should think. Won't be this week, that's for sure. Right, okay, so that's what I'm looking for there. As far as the other markets are concerned, look, it's the middle of August. Just put it in perspective. Let's look at the dollar index. Look at the dollar index just chopping sideways. So you have to put it into context. If you're trading a dollar-based currency pair, then there's lots of sideways movement. So are we going to be seeing lots of directional trend-based plays on those dollar pairs? Well, maybe, but because we don't consolidate forever, but it just puts it into perspective that at least lower your expectations, because we may not be seeing huge big moves just in this last week or two of August. And if we can have a look at the likes of the euro dollar if we want to, consolidating sideways. Could go either way, obviously. Could break down to new lows after a consolidation on a downwards move, or it could be that it wants to actually break up after a consolidation. So we'll have to see, but it's just consolidating, really. It's a choppy chart, and we could go through a number of charts, but I don't think there's too much to say. I mean, the pound it's jumped up overnight on Carney's comments in the Times, in the Sunday Times, saying that maybe they'll have to act on interest rates ahead of wage growth. And that's obviously given a little bit of stimulus to the pound this morning, but at the end of the day, it's still in a short-term downwards trend at the moment. But it may just want to consolidate after this. If it can hold here, it may consolidate within these bands here, and we might see some backing and forth over the coming days with the pound within these. So and ultimately then potentially a test of this daily 21. So that potentially is on the cards there for the pound. But other than that, I'm not going to say too much. I'm just taking each day as it comes as far as trading is concerned, and that's about it. Right, I shall leave you to it. I'll be back on Friday for live trading.